Good morning. It being 9 a.m., I'd like to call to order this organizational meeting of the Capital Project Overview Committee. And I'd like to recognize Senator Lang for a motion, please.
I move that we nominate Rep. Miltz as chair.
Motion's been made and seconded. We'll do a voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I would like to make a motion right now. I nominate for Vice Chair Senator Mark McConkey.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. We are not going to be able to act on this today because Senator McConkey is not here to accept it formally. So we'll carry that over to the next meeting. Having said that, I would like to make a motion to nominate Mike Edgar as clerk. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Representative Edgar is now the clerk. Item 1 is now completed. Item 2, committee orientation. Should have in front of you the guidelines and procedures. Informational. We also have the CAP 25001 revised statutes to the Capital Project Overview Committee. Informational. Does anything have to be voted on, Mr. Shea?
Just to accept the procedures of the committee, you should just adopt that. So just for a kind of a quick overview for the new members of the committee, the organization procedures, guidelines and procedures basically address two issues. One is how items come to the committee from the agencies, telling the agencies that they need to provide our office, within 2 weeks of the meeting with the materials that they want to come before this meeting. If there's a need for a late item, that they need to make a request to the chair. The second portion of this is in the last budget, the capital Budget Overview Committee was changed to Capital Project Overview Committee. And as part of that, there's a quarterly report that's provided to this committee through Department of Administrative Services. And this committee put some guardrails up, for lack of a better term, in terms of what you want capital projects to be worth before they get included on this report. So that's what these guidelines are intended to provide the committee as well as the agencies, so that you didn't end up with $50,000 projects being reported on a quarterly basis when you didn't really need or want them before you.
Move to accept.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along, the acceptance of minutes of the November 12th, 2024 minutes. Motion has been made. I will second that. Any corrections, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Numbers of abstained. Do you have those abstentions?
I've got Senator Waters, Representative Erf,
Edgar and Weiler.
Edgar and Weiler. Thank you.
Under old business, none. Under new business, none. Under miscellaneous, none. This is starting to be my favorite committee so far I've ever been on. Informational, also in the package, you have CAP 25002 from the Department of Administrative Services, the quarterly capital budget project report for the quarter ending December 31st, 2024. Mr. Shea, help us.
So this is the quarterly report that I just referenced in terms of the organizational materials. So the Department of Administrative Services compiles all the capital projects around the state within the limit guidance of the procedures you just adopted. you'll see the long 8.5 by 14 page. That would be considered the old capital budget report that you used to get. At the last couple pages are the new projects that were included when this became a capital project overview. And then the large pages in the back are all DOT projects that are $1 million or more that they're now reporting. I'd like to just let the committee know as well that the governor's trailer bill does propose to make this a annual report versus a quarterly report. So just be aware of that because it will be in House Bill 2. And if the committee has some feelings related to that, they should probably let finance members know in the House or in the Senate if it passes the House.
Any questions? Senator Waters, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wondered if I might just ask a couple of questions about some projects, and if you could answer me later or now. I wondered what the status was of the rebid for the Big E building for agriculture. And I also would, if you could get an update on the construction of the woodworking facility at the state prison. And then for the pier projects at Pease, the one was supposed to be done in February, and I don't think I'd seen that, but if you could just check on both the projects, the Pease projects.
And for the prison, what was the question for that one?
Well, what is the status of those? They were supposed to be done. I haven't heard if they're done or not.
Of the,
Pease.
not the P's, the prison. You'd mentioned the prison
Oh, yeah,
project.
the prison woodworking, what is the status of that?
Oh, the woodworking, got it. For the women's facility.
Facility for the
Yep.
woodworking construction, yeah. And the last one, I mean, I can call DOT, but I was curious about the General Sullivan Bridge removal, if they have any kind of scheduling or of RFPs or anything on that one.
I will get the information and then I'll send an email to the full committee as to what I've gotten from each of the
Thank you,
agencies.
Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Senator Lang.
So I'm interested in the projects that are all on hold. What's going to happen next? Like I'm looking at one for DOT about a roof or something, about a grant application. It's on page, there are no page numbers on this thing, but anyway. It's a $4 million ask that was forwarded. The balance is forwarded. The balance is available. It just says grant application was unsuccessful. Funds available to pursue future discretionary grant opportunities. What does that mean? Because apparently we put this money out there for something, Market Street, I can't decipher that thing. So I'd be interested in at least a quarterly report on all the projects that were on hold from the previous quarter. What's the new update? Rather than just dump it in here, because I have no idea what this, it says it's on hold. It says the completion date was last month or December, but the money's still available. So that's the kind of thing I'm interested in. If we put a project on hold for whatever reason, what's the next step, and did status change from the previous report?
Yeah, we can make that request. Now, the agencies provide administrative services. If you look at the spreadsheet on page 1, for instance, that's a framework where the agencies provide information from the comments over.
Yep.
Everything in the left side of that comes from the Statement of Appropriations system. So administrative services will try to get comments from the agencies. The agencies don't always provide those, but if based on this committee wanting to know a certain status, we can certainly ask for that to be provided. And if they can't provide it, we'll ask them to come to the committee and explain what's going on.
Again, I'm
And-
interested in all the things that were on hold. So those are things we either budgeted for and aren't doing anything with right now. And I'd be interested in knowing what the plan is for it. Or if it was on hold last month and it's moving forward now, just let me, hey, this one came off hold and is now. So it's cleaner than, I'm looking at this, it's an awful lot of columns and numbers.
Right.
And
To the specific example that you had, that was discretionary money that was put in the capital budget 2 cycles ago. So the Department of Transportation had indicated at that time that federal government has different grants popping up, and the state's not eligible for those because they don't have a matching funding source. So there was a desire at that time for the capital budget to have some money in it I think it was $4 million to try to get those. Last time when the capital budget was being built, the agency reported that those discretionary programs, we didn't win any of those grants, or we weren't awarded any of those grants. And so we continued to carry the money forward. So with a lot of these hold projects and all these projects, when you get the capital budget itself, when you start working on the capital budget within the House and in the Senate, there's all these lapse extensions in the back, which a lot of these projects that are on hold will probably be in there. And why each one's on hold, it varies, but we can certainly try to get some better information.
Thank you.
Yep.
Senator Gray.
I'd like to get the answers to those questions attached to the minutes so that it will remain so that, it'll be part of the record. I think that's a prudent thing to do.
Representative Arf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also have concerns about the HB2 switching from quarterly to annual. But I have a specific question regarding the closed loop referral contract that you and I have discussed going back to last summer, which part of the funding comes out of the capital projects. And specifically relates to the quarterly reporting guidelines that make mention of when we'll get reported on that regarding the $1 million, except other than capital budget, blah, blah, blah. Is that piece of money in here? It probably would be in the neighborhood of, I don't know, $2.5 or $3 million because it's half of the actual contract.
So I don't know the answer to that without looking at some of the detail. What we're showing is they show the appropriation for the capital projects. They don't necessarily show you what's been contracted per se. They do show you what's been expended and what's been encumbered, but we wouldn't know, was it due to a contract or was it due to actual work that was done by Public Works, or we would have to, per each project, get the detail related to that. So if there's a specific question.
Well, the frustration I want to just express to the committee, I'm not sure how familiar, and I'm not very familiar with this committee, but I am familiar with this particular thing. There was this contract which went through quite a cycle. I won't go through all the details back to the COVID times, and was finally let last year after like 3 efforts. But the interesting thing about it, it was only maybe $6, $7, $8 million in DHHS. However, a big piece of that came out of a capital projects budget and Medicaid budget from 2 years ago, from the last term. Another big piece of it came out of another large piece, a different place, and another $500,000 came out of Veterans Affairs, military something or other, Veterans Home, I guess maybe it was. So I'm concerned that these, especially DHHS, but maybe it's a more general thing, that contracts are getting let, and the legislature's never hearing about them. This one was never heard in the legislature, House or Senate, in any of the presentations that were given either the Capital Projects Committee or to DHHS, which I was serving that Finance Committee for a number of 6 years. So I just wanted to find out, make people aware that there's an issue here that I'd like to be able to figure out how to track. Thank you.
Representative Ebel.
Well, as long as we're on the subject of projects on hold, I would say 6 to 8 years ago, there was money appropriated for upgrading the parking lot at Sunapee State Beach. And it's funny, I had several constituents call me about this in the last couple of weeks, and I see it right here. It says no info on project list for this. So maybe you could inquire.
We can, and that comment would be because the agency didn't respond back to
Right, I know.
administrative services.
Yeah, I know. Which is even more concerning. Thank you.
Mr. Shea, I think we, as a committee, we've noticed that having this quarterly report go to a annual report would not be in our best interests. So I don't know how we have to work around the fact that the governor wants it annually, because we, I think, would certainly be better served having this report quarterly.
So a suggestion I might make is that the chair of this committee could let the chair of finance, who also serves on this committee, know that you would like a House Bill 2 amendment to remove that section, and our office could assist the chair with that.
Representative Weiler, did you hear that? Thumbs up for the record from Representative Weiler.
And,
First
Mr.
Amendment
Chair,
to the
and it
budget.
is going to Division 1, so we have some control over the operation up to a point.
Any other questions? Representative Edgar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Almost said Ebel again. Representative Edgar.
Yeah, the question I have, it's a general one, and it has to do with appropriations that we got and money we were promised from the federal government. I just want to know if in fact anything that we've been planning to use is being withdrawn. And if any is withdrawn, I think I'd like to be notified, the committee notified about it right away.
We haven't been made aware that there's any projects in jeopardy at this time, but as we get information, we would certainly share with the committee.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Senator Gray.
Close enough, you know. The committee does have the ability to, for any of the departments that are not providing responses for the minutes of this, or for this report, to ask them to attend and provide that input in person, okay? And that is usually a very good incentive for them to actually provide the report ahead of time. So, again, as the chair and, you know, for our staff, I think that that should be the policy of this committee, is that if there is a department that has not provided input, that they be asked to attend and explain.
Duly noted.
If I might just piggyback on that comment, that's true for any project. This committee can bring any agency into this meeting at any time to get an update or ask questions about any project you might be interested in. So for instance, if Senator Waters wasn't satisfied with the responses I was able to get, at the next meeting, we could ask those agencies to come in and be ready to explain what's going on. We've done that with the hatchery. We've done it with other projects in the past. The Environmental Services One Stop has come in a couple of times to explain what their status is of that project. So if this committee just has a desire to bring a certain project before it and have the agency explain it, that can happen well before the quarterly reports come to you. So I just wanted to make that very clear. We're happy to invite them for you.
Thank you. Senator Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question around the $25 million design build limits for the DOT. And that's the maximum that they can do a design build on it. And I was trying to look in statute as to when that number had been set. And so would it be possible to inquire with DOT as to whether or not, with inflation and everything else, that it might make sense to increase that amount? And I don't know whether you have any thoughts about that, but.
I don't. That would be certainly a question we would ask DOT in terms of the size of the projects and the scope of projects that they deal with, if that $25 million causes any delays or barriers to getting projects done. But certainly happy to reach out to DOT and find out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Representative Weiler.
When we, last budget, we talked about putting 40 million aside for 10 years, so we'd have 400 million to build a new prison. I don't remember whether that was in the capital budget or the regular budget. Do you?
Regular.
Is it regular budget?
I think that was in the regular budget.
All right, because the governor leaves it out. So, thank you.
Mr. Shea.
So right now, the Department of Corrections has $50 million to use to design and get an architectural schematic of the potential future prison. They're using the first $10 million, I believe, to make sure that the property behind the women's prison is feasible for putting the new men's prison. And then the other 40 million that was appropriated to them would be used to do a design schematic that could be used for bidding purposes. I say that because there may not be a need for additional appropriations this cycle, and maybe that's why it wasn't included, but that would certainly be a question for the Capital Budget Committee to ask when they come before you in the next couple weeks in the House.
Any other questions? Representative Ebel.
It's not a question, but it's just a comment. When I didn't see the appropriation for corrections in the operations budget, I did look right away into the capital budget, and it's not
there.
It's just more upkeep, right?
Right. Correct. Mr. Shea, have you got all your questions and everything lined up so far that you think you've got?
I think so, but it looks like Senator Lang may have something else.
Senator Lang.
I'm just looking, number one, this is a great little hand guide, this capital, this legislative review, 001. And this is more comment for the finance chairs that happen to be sitting in the room. And I look at page 12, and I'm looking at the use of toll credits. Interesting enough, this committee's got to approve any use of toll credits. And I'm thinking about a sound barrier we talked about last year in the budget process to use toll credits for the purchase of a sound barrier. And yet in this, under here, I'm not sure we could have done that without approval of this committee. And I guess I'm maybe asking, how does that work when it comes to the budget? If someone puts something in the budget for the use of a toll credit,
So toll credits isn't actual money. Okay, so that just is the match, the soft match to get federal matching money. So if there was a project where the feds say it's a, $100 project, it's an 80-20 match, you can use toll credits to match $20 of that 100. The state would only get $80 for the project. So you still, if there's no federal money, toll credits don't help you.
well, I'm just looking at the last sentence of that
Right.
law, 228:12-A.
Yep.
It says, any other use of toll credits shall require approval of the Joint Legislative Capital Projects Overview Committee.
So they come in as an item to this committee and make a request, and this committee either approves it or denies it. Yep.
Representative Evil.
Okay, so is the reason that, the governor has put in her HB2 that this report should be prepared annually instead of quarterly because of the work that's involved in preparing it?
I think the answer is yes, but I would defer to the
Yeah,
Department of
right.
Administrative Services. But it's a pretty cumbersome report, and it requires a couple of their, it's not only their accounting office, but Public Works has to step in, as well as some administrative help to,
Well, I was just going to
it together.
suggest maybe one way of reducing the workload, if we still did want it quarterly, is to make the reporting level 2 million, say, instead of 1 million, or raise the threshold. I mean, that's up, I just thought I would mention it if that's of interest.
So I think when the change occurred, it was a desire of the previous committee to maintain the projects that would show up from the capital budget, and then any of the add-ons that don't go through the capital budget. I'm not sure how much work you would save by increasing it from 1 million to 2 million for those projects that aren't included in the capital budget. It might help DOT on that last page, but they've worked with this committee and administrative services to basically generate it through their system. So it's not a ton of work for them to do this. You were able to narrow it down for them and took the workload away when they met with this committee
Okay.
in the fall
So
several
it's not
times.
the change in the statute to capital projects from capital budget, it's just an overall concern.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Any other questions regarding our lengthy informational meeting here? Seeing none, let's move on to item 8, the date of our next meeting. Mr. Shea, you have a recommendation, please?
In talking with the chair, the thought of April 14th or that week, that's a Monday, and possibly June 23rd. And the reason those two dates were picked is that April 14th would be after the House completes its budget process. So you should have crossovers all complete, as well as the Senate. And the Senate shouldn't be too busy with all the bills that they're getting from the House by that point. And then the June 23rd date would be in between committee conferences and the last session day. So those were the two suggestions for the next meetings.
If we pick the 23rd, I won't be here. That's the Legislative Golf Classic Day.
Let's look. Okay. Okay. Senator Waters.
Yeah, just on the 14th, Career and Technical Advisory Committee meets at 9. So if we had that day, we could meet at 11 but if I can't be here, I can't be here. I may toggle between the two, but
Okay. Let's,
The meetings at this committee, I don't make the decision on the meeting. It would be up to the chair and the members of the committee.
correct. Well, I think we could get a substitute as long as you're the only one at this point in time. So let's go ahead and schedule the 14th tentative, 14th for sure. And, correct.
It's actually not the day after Easter. I believe it's the day after Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yes.
And we'll take up the June 23rd on the 14th. We'll see how everybody's schedule's looking at that point in time. 9 o'clock. Anything else? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Jim?